Full time in Bilbao. Athletic Club de Bilbao 0, Arsenal 2. A fantastic result. Really, really excellent result and really strong start to Arsenal's Champions League campaign. Another good result in this big week for the club. I think a lot of teams will struggle at that stadium against that team. The intensity of the game, the physicality, the noise from the crowd. It was an intimidating atmosphere. It was a difficult, hard game. And Arsenal found the answers. And the answers came from the substitutes bench. That's really the only place to start talking. I want to give big praise to Gabriel Martinelli and Leandro Trossard, who were difference makers tonight. You know, I think I remarked about what a show of strength it was having those guys come on late in the game at the weekend in the Premier League game. They came off the bench in this one and they made a tremendous impact. A goal apiece, an assist apiece, I think I'm right in saying. I'm particularly pleased for Gabriel Martinelli, who's been subject of a lot of criticism recently. Some of it fair. You know, he's definitely a player who's been out of form, a player who has lacked a bit of confidence, who I think, to me, looks like a player who's playing in a system and a team and a style of play that doesn't entirely suit him. I still think, you know, what have his great moments been this year? Tonight, obviously racing onto that hook pass from Trossard, and then in the Bernabeu, you know, another big Champions League game away from home. And it's the same thing, running onto a through ball. He's so quick. One of the things I think that is forgotten about Martinelli is quite how rapid he is. He is one of the fastest players at the club. I believe that some data demonstrates he's one of the faster players in England, and therefore presumably Europe. He really can travel, and as he's shown, you know, if you think of that goal at Stamford Bridge where he dribbled half the length of the pitch, he can also travel with the ball at serious pace if he has the space to go into. I'm not going to try and kid you over and say he's got the intricacy or the skill or the technique to dribble his way, you know, in between 3 or 4 markers. I don't think he is that player. I think he absolutely is this player, though, someone who can run onto stuff, get on the end of things, and finish in those situations. Look, it wasn't the best finish in the world, but it went under the goalkeeper. I think it's a huge moment for him individually. Subject of a lot of criticism, wondering, I guess, what his place is in the team, in the squad, at the club. He didn't celebrate in a sort of over-the-top way. I need to see it again, but it felt like there was almost a kind of defiant moment when he scored, as if to say, that's what I can do, that's what I'm about. And it was within seconds, I think within about 40 seconds of coming off the bench, the perfect substitute, the perfect introduction. Credit to the manager who made that call, who clearly saw what Martinelli could offer. As it had quite a quiet game off the left-hand side. It was a difficult game for our attacking players. But Martinelli, he had the legs, he had the speed, he had the composure. And then a really good assist from him for Trossard as well. I think back to the summer, we broke the story on The Athletic about Trossard getting a pay rise. And there was uproar, to be honest, because I think this was before the signing of Eze, before perhaps the signing of a couple of others. And people were furious. A lot of fans were furious about the idea that Trossard might stay. They wanted to see him go because they felt that a new arrival would be contingent on that. But he's got a tremendous record. What is it, 50-odd goals and assists, I think, since he signed for the club. Even the way he takes this one, it's really good work from Martinelli, doing what we've been yearning for him to do, really, just using his speed, going past the man on the outside, tucking it back. But Trossard, so cute in the penalty box, the way he brings it under his spell and then finds a moment with no backlift to get a shot off. Yes, it deflects, but having that presence of mind, having that skill to be able to bring that ball under control and get the shot away inside the box, he's very good in that respect. There are a few better, certainly at Arsenal. So that was a great way to win it, and I'm so delighted for them both. They really played their part, and I think it's really important. We are carrying this big squad, this impressive squad, but a big squad, and I think it's really important that the guys who are not necessarily the first names on the team sheet feel like they're contributing, feel like they're part of it. And that's the challenge for Mikel Arteta. Can he make them feel part of it? they showed what they can do tonight. They showed they still have something to offer. It's a 5-sub game now, and I think there'll be plenty of opportunities for them to make an impact. What else to say about this one? I thought Mosquera, again, was very, very, very good at centre-half. Jakub Kivior's gone now to Porto, and I think some people felt I was sometimes a bit down on Kivior, either here or on the podcast, that, I never quite rated him as highly as some might have hoped. I think that's true, to be honest. Whenever I saw Kivior play, maybe apart from that little run he had towards the end of last season, where, to be fair to him, he was virtually faultless. But there were just some rough edges in what he did that left me a bit uneasy. Christian Mosquera is kind of the opposite of that. Everything he does to me looks so smooth. He's only 21, so athletic, so powerful, so able on the ball. And crucially, I think it's the psychological component, so unflappable. I mean, yes, he's played in that stadium before, but that was an intense atmosphere in a big game, a Champions League game. He took it on like it was nothing. I think Gabriel deserves massive credit. Jurrien Timber deserves massive credit as well for sort of supporting him on either side. He's got Zubimendi in front of him, Declan Rice too at times. Something that occurred to me is that as much as Mosquera deserves praise, there can't be a better team to come into right now as a young defender. When you think about the goalkeeper behind him, the back four around him, the midfield in front of him, the way the attackers press and protect, I'm not downplaying what Mosquera's done. It's superb. But are there many better teams than this for a young centre-half to slot into? I'm not so sure. And, he's benefiting from that as well. Another clean sheet tonight. I think I'm right in saying the only goal we've conceded this season has been one of the best free kicks you'll see from Szoboszlai at Anfield, from the champions in the 87th minute. It's funny because as fans we've been really focused on the attack, the excitement of new attacking signings. Madueke, who I thought was really positive tonight as well. Eze, Gyökeres. Is it going to click? How are we going to change the way we attack? We've almost not been talking enough about this defence because the defence has started looking incredibly solid. I think Zubimendi's addition is probably part of that. There were certainly moments last season where both Jorginho and Thomas Partey had moments where they looked uncomfortable defensively. Zubimendi, I think, just seems to have slotted in really easily. Calafiori's doing a terrific job at left back, seems to be finding that balance between risk and reward. Timber just looks superb. So I think the defensive unit is really, really promising because the attack, we're scoring goals, we're winning games, but it might take some time for that kind of first choice unit to develop, to click. We're going to be waiting for Odegaard to come back, for Saka to come back, for Gyökeres to fully acclimatise. Played about 65 today, Gyökeres. Had a few chances. They were headed chances mainly. I know he scored that brilliant header in the Emirates Cup, but as a rule, he doesn't score a ton of goals with his head, so I wasn't too surprised to see one or two of those not hit the target. But I think, he was brought off partly because it's Man City, right, at the weekend, and he is the only obvious centre-forward. When Trossard came on, I sort of thought Marino might go into that front three, but actually he stayed in midfield. Trossard played up top with Martinelli off the left. But there's a lot riding on Gyökeres, so I can understand the manager's temptation to protect him physically where he can. And a point would have been a good result tonight. That's the thing. I mean, from early on in this game, I was thinking, this looks like a draw. There weren't a ton of chances in open play. Difficult game for both clubs. First game, get a point on the record, not too shabby. To win, to me, is a bonus, a big bonus. And it might, afford us a bit of flexibility where we can rest and rotate maybe later in the group. That Man City game looks big now. City always had a really good win against Man United, although you never know quite how good it is when it's against that team. They'll have a point to prove, no doubt. They kind of need a result, really, to get themselves into contention, I think, and to sort of establish their credibility. I think anything less than a win from Arsenal will be quite disappointing, given City's vulnerabilities and given the height of Arsenal's ambitions. So that'll be really interesting. I'm hopefully going to be there, so I'll speak to you all then. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.